Everyone, what's going on? So last night I made this video talking about the Portland Trailblazers being trapped in the elevator and how this mainstream media story was synced up to the death of Prince the singer, who also died in an elevator. And the reason that it was important was because back in November, the Minnesota Timberwolves had unveiled these new Prince jerseys, and the team that they unveiled them against, they were playing the Portland Trailblazers. And then on February 26th, we get the story of the Portland Trailblazers getting trapped in an elevator, and Prince died on an elevator. And in the practice of coding numbers into words and phrases, which is called gematria, that goes back to what is called Kabbalah, which is Jewish mysticism, that has a belief that God created the world by merging the letter with the number. In this system, if you write out Prince's name, Prince Rogers Nelson, it also equals 226. And a big thing that I mentioned in this video was how they put a lot of emphasis on this new player that the Trailblazers just picked up after the Knicks dropped him, and his name is Enes Kanter, or however you pronounce his name, but he came from the Knicks, and I've documented a lot of 9/11 symbolism with this guy, and think about the Knicks in New York. And anyway, if you recall, in 1993, we had the World Trade Center attack, also on the date of 2/26, and this guy couldn't travel to London this year to play the Washington Wizards because he didn't want to get arrested or murdered and whatnot. And what's so interesting about all of this is that the Turkey president, his birthday is also 2/26, February 26th. And back in 2016, the same year that Prince died, we had a coup that they tried to overthrow this guy, and they blamed it on this guy, which Enes Kanter is a follower of, Fethullah Gulen. And this coup just so happened to happen 226 days before 2/26, this guy's birthday. And if you read out this guy's name in gematria, it also equals 226. So there's a bunch of this 9/11 symbolism that is important. And I talked about how it's all synced up to the number 112 with Prince. Prince died on the 112th day of the year. He was synced up to the 112th World Series that came to an end on 11/2. And Enes Kanter equals 112. And it's important because in other parts of the world, the emergency dialing code is 112, not 911. And just before the story or whatever, the Knicks beat the Lakers 119-112 even. And that's when Kanter was still with the Knicks and whatnot. And then he didn't go to London to play in the game. So I talked about all of this, and I'll leave a link in the description and you can understand better what I'm talking about. It's kind of a follow-up video, but in the video, when I was talking about the 9/11 symbolism, I just randomly brought up Dennis Rodman. It didn't necessarily fit into what I was talking about, but Dennis Rodman is important. And this was the very next day, Donald Trump had another meeting with Kim Jong-un, and think about Dennis Rodman and trying to do the basketball diplomacy. All of his trips to North Korea were scripted by the numbers, and he played 911 NBA games in his career, which is why it was important. He played 911 NBA games, and in 2017, when he went to North Korea, he went there 156 days after Kim Jong-un's birthday, and the 156 prime number is also 911. And this number is just really important to 9/11. 9/11 happened 33 years after the year 1968, and that's when AT&T made 911 the emergency dialing code, and that's also the year that the World Trade Center construction began. It's also the year that George Bush graduated from Yale and also Skull and Bones. And if you read out 33, this is 33 years before. If you read out 33, it equals 156. Also, if you read out false flag, it equals 156. So it was important with Dennis Rodman here and the 9/11 symbolism. And a big thing that I talked about in this video was the date of May 13th and how there's something important to the date of May 13th, but I don't exactly know what it is. And the only reason I'm making this video is I went and I further looked up Dennis Rodman today. And you notice when his birthday is here? Look what his birthday is. May 13th, 513. I talked about this in the last video, right? How it was important, and I randomly brought up Dennis Rodman. And May 13th, when he first went to North Korea in 2013, he went on none other than February 26, 2/26, right? This big number that I'm talking about. It was just completely, not even on purpose, and Dennis Rodman is absolutely synced up to all of what I'm talking about. And it's even more important here because if you go back to some of my other videos here from the beginning of February, I talked a lot about this Ralph Northam story and also the Mark Herring story, the Virginia politicians who did the blackface stuff. And in this video, I mentioned how Bow Wow, or Little Bow Wow, was in the mainstream media, and there was a chain of events that led me to watch my old video about Bow Wow and Like Mike, and the movie Like Mike. And in that movie, it's all about basketball, and think about Dennis Rodman and the basketball diplomacy. And Bow Wow even remakes the Curtis Blow song called Basketball. And I talked about how possibly Curtis Blow was going to be important to this narrative that's going on. And lo and behold, a few days later, we get the story of the Virginia Attorney General, Mark Herring, and how he also did blackface in tribute to Curtis Blow. So what are the odds of that, right? I'm following these patterns that exist within the mainstream media, and it's really synced up to that movie, or just the theme of basketball. Basketball is really important. In gematria, basketball equals 68. Let's write it out here. In gematria, basketball equals 68. That's why last year the NBA Finals came to an end on the date of June 8th, 6/8, and it was also a sweep that equals 68 in gematria. Basketball equals 68. Dennis Rodman equals 68. Think about Like Mike and Dennis Rodman and the Chicago Bulls. Chicago Bulls also equals 68 in gematria. So does Donald John Trump. He equals 68 in gematria. Also 185, just like basketball. May 13th is also important because the United States officially declared war in the Mexican-American War, and think about that in regards to the wall symbolism. They did that on May 13th, and the president was James Knox Polk, who equals 68 and 185, right? Just like Donald Trump. Donald Trump wants to build the wall. And keep in mind that when Donald Trump addressed the nation about building the wall, it was on January 8th, which is Kim Jong-un's birthday. And when Donald Trump won the election in 2016, or, the selection, the rigged selection, it was all about the number 48. And the word wall equals 48. So does just Donald Trump. That equals 48. Mike Pence became the 48th vice president. The Mexican-American War came to an end in the year 48. Trump won the biggest election upset since the year 1948 when Harry S. Truman won the election over Thomas E. Dewey. And just notice the overlap of these numbers here. Harry S. Truman, Donald J. Trump, right? He even equals the same. And that even equals 68. But I'm bringing all this up because Truman was the president during the Korean War, right? He was the president during the Korean War. Now we have Donald Trump doing all this stuff. Synced up to the wall, synced up to Korea, and North Korea was even created in the year 48 and whatnot. So it's really, really important to what is going on. And basketball is an underlying theme that is connected to all of this. So just wanted to point out all these 68s and whatnot. And if you go back to a couple of these videos, and one of these videos, I believe it is this video right here, I talk about how the blackface stuff is important to my own life because on Halloween in 2011, I actually put brown paint on my skin and I went as Halloween. I went to Halloween at the bar as Dennis Rodman wearing the wedding dress. And I always thought that Dennis Rodman wore that wedding dress when he married Carmen Electra. But I just found out today that he actually just wore a random wedding dress to promote his book called Bad as I Want to Be. And then a few years later, he married Carmen Electra. But when I went to the Halloween party at the bar, dressed as Dennis Rodman on his wedding or in the wedding dress, I thought it was because that's what he did with Carmen Electra. And, I talk about how this stuff is synced up to my own life all of the time. And anyway, the moral of the story of all this is I went and I looked up Carmen Electra because I thought it was important, right? And I know these narratives and the way it syncs up. And when you go look up Carmen Electra, and this is something I had no idea either until reading this. I just always thought she was in Playboy and whatever else, Apparently she's like a rapper or an artist, right? And the only reason that she got famous or her career began, it was after she moved to Minneapolis, Minnesota, where she met Prince, who produced her debut record. What are the odds of that, right? So Dennis Rodman's ex-wife, right, is Carmen Electra, and she got famous after she met Prince, the singer. And think about how Prince was important to the last video that I put out. And there's some interesting things about her. Her real name equals 46, and she is 46 years old, and the word sacrifice equals 46. I wonder about Dennis Rodman. He's 57 years old right now. 2/26 is the 57th day of the year. And Prince died at the age of 57 on the night of a full moon. And what's interesting about all that is in 2016, just after Donald Trump had won the election and whatnot, another connection to the year 48 was that we got the closest supermoon since the year 1948 on November 14th. It was November 14th, which just so happens to be Prince Charles, his birthday. Prince Charles, who will become King Charles if Queen Elizabeth dies. And all of the stuff with the Timberwolves unveiling the Prince jerseys against the Trailblazers was synced up to Queen Elizabeth and whatnot. Prince died on Queen Elizabeth's birthday in 2016. But this supermoon was the closest since the year 48 on 11/14. And if you look up when Dennis Rodman married Carmen Electra, it was also on November 14th of the year 98. So he married Carmen Electra on Prince Charles's 50th birthday. And there's some other parallels with Dennis Rodman. Let me find it here. Dennis Rodman, Celebrity Deathmatch. After Prince died, I talked about the Celebrity Deathmatch. It was the 10th episode, and I don't know if you remember the show. It used to be on MTV. It was like these clay people, and they fought to the death, right? And in the 10th episode, there's 3 matches, and one of them is Dennis Rodman versus Michael Jordan, and another one is Steven Seagal versus David Spade, and the other one is Prince the Singer versus Prince Charles. And I can't even remember what all happens in it. I think that Prince the Singer gets killed by Queen Elizabeth. I'll have to look here. And then, yeah, like, I'm pretty sure Queen Elizabeth kills him. It's been a while since I've looked through this post, but just what are the odds that Prince is fighting Prince Charles, and then on the same episode, Dennis Rodman fights Michael Jordan, and Michael Jordan, you know, really important to what has been going on. The Zion Williamson tearing his shoe thing was synced up to the movie Like Mike. He did it against North Carolina, Michael Jordan's old team. All the stuff with the Teen Wolf stuff that I had mentioned in the previous video, it was synced up to the Bulls as well. And Michael Jordan, Zach LaVine, the Teen Wolf, did the Space Jam dunk on Valentine's Day, the same day Denzel Valentine hit the game winner for Michigan State. And now they both play for the Chicago Bulls. Derrick Rose had played for the Chicago Bulls that year. And, you know, think about Valentine's and roses and Portland, where the Trailblazers play. It's the city of roses. And that's why just before they played that game and unveiled the Prince jerseys, Derrick Rose had a 50-point game. And I believe Oregon even became a state on Valentine's Day. So something really important to that. But just wanted to point it out, you know. What are the odds here? And I've also mentioned Chris Farley a lot in some of these other posts. Chris Farley died during Lupercalia, the Wolf Festival, or his birthday was on February 15th. And that's the same day that Prince's ex-girlfriend Vanity died at the age of 57, just before Prince died in 2016. And now that I'm thinking about it too, just maybe nothing, but Steven Seagal, I mean, I think of the movie Under Siege, and in one of the movies, the black guy who helps him, the busboy guy, he's the same guy who plays Tracy Reynolds in the movie Like Mike. I'm almost positive. I gotta look that up really quick. Hold on real sec. Oh, Like Mike. I swear to you, that guy's also in the movie Under Siege. Dude, this is crazy. Hold on. So, hold on. I'm just figuring this out here. Morris Chestnut. Let me make sure that he's in Under Siege. I swear he's in the movie Under Siege. Yeah, he's in Under Siege Part 2. Right? On the train. But check this out. I just noticed this. His name is Morris Chestnut. Look at my celebrity deathmatch post here. I know I just saw the word chestnut somewhere down here. Prince Charles rides in on a horse named Chestnut. What are the odds of that? That's some weird stuff. Huh. I have to think more on that now, but Steven Seagal just reminds me of that. I think of him, when I think of him, there's some other movies that I think of, but, you know, Under Siege was some really popular ones, and I don't know why, I just randomly thought of that. I was like, hey, the guy who plays Tracy Reynolds in Like Mike is in that movie. And wow, and his name's Morris Chestnut. Prince Charles rides in on a horse named Chestnut. So, interesting. But, let's go back to this post here. So, Carmen Electra got famous from Prince, and then they also got married on Prince Charles's birthday, you know, and another interesting thing in regards to Prince and Dennis Rodman is that his agent, his name is Darren Prince. Let's see here. Him and Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan's agent is also Darren Prince. And remember, when Dennis Rodman was in wrestling, just like Donald Trump, right? He was in the NWO and he fought with Hulk Hogan, right? And that's all about 9/11 symbolism. George H.W. Bush gave the New World Order speech exactly 11 years to the day before 9/11/2001. That happened in the 11th state on the 11th day of September. The two buildings look like a giant 11. The first plane to hit was AA:11, a lot like an 1111. If you write out NWO, it equals 11 in gematria. And, just throwing that out there, but not necessarily related, but the 11th president was the president during the Mexican-American War. So, but, Prince's agent is Darren Prince. It's also Hulk Hogan's. And, we've been following this date of August 11th recently, and, it's very important. And I even mentioned how this date might be just something connected to that date as well. So, just put it out there, that's Hulk Hogan's birthday as well, August 11th. I've been talking about this date for a long time, so for at least a couple years, and how it's important to a whole bunch of things. Even Robin Williams died on this day, and it's important to Philadelphia. It's important to the Major League Baseball strike. So just putting it out there. Dennis Rodman too. So when he first went to North Korea, it was on 2/26, and then the second time he went was later that year on the date of 9/3. And just think about that in regards to what I talked about with Minneapolis in the last video. Minneapolis, Minnesota equals 93. Talking about the 93 World Trade Center bombings. Queen Elizabeth is going to be 93 years old this year on the anniversary of Prince dying on 4/21. I would die for you. Use the 21st letter. And then he dies on 4/21. But yeah, that was 6 months and 8 days later too. I don't know if I just said that, but Dennis Rodman went to North Korea the second time 6 months and 8 days after the first time, right? And his name equals 68. The word basketball 68. It's all about basketball diplomacy, and that equals 114 in gematria, just like Kim Jong-un, just like World War, right? He went in 2013 to begin it all, and LeBron James equals 114, and that was 114 days before the Miami Heat and LeBron James beat the Spurs in the playoffs, or in the NBA Finals, right? 114 days before. The word Heat equals 114. So, synced up to that. We also have this Otto Warmbier guy, right? Remember Dennis Rodman went over and this guy got released? Otto Warmbier. That's how you pronounce his name. Think about it. Dennis Rodman's nickname is the Worm. He goes to North Korea, and then Otto Warmbier gets released, and then he dies on June 19th, which is the 114th prime number, 619. He died at 2/20, and he died age 22. The word basketball also equals 22 in gematria. Dennis Rodman is 22 years older than Kim Jong-un, and I can't remember how far away their birthdays are. Let me check that really quick, if it will let me here. I know their birthdays are a significant amount of days apart too. 125, and if you write out North Korea, it equals 125. So, you know, North Korea equals 125, Dennis Rodman, and Kim Jong-un's birthday is 125 days apart. But the thing with Otto Warmbier here is he went to college at the University of Virginia, which is the Cavalier. That's why LeBron James is important. Cleveland Cavaliers. A Cavalier is a follower of King Charles during the English Civil War. And think about all the blackface stuff, right? How it's all connected to Virginia. It's super important to Virginia. Then we also got the Justin Fairfax stuff that was synced up to Duke, right? And the only team that Virginia had lost to at the time, I haven't kept up on it, but it was only Duke. They've only lost to Duke. A whole bunch of stuff synced up to Duke. So I bring up this Duke stuff too, because of the Zion Williamson injury and, a ton of other things that I've talked about in connection to Duke. And while making this blog post, so I started writing up this blog post about Otto Warmbier going to the University of Virginia, synced up to the blackface stuff, and my Halloween costume in 2011, I painted myself black to be Dennis Rodman or whatever. And my son woke up and I went upstairs and brought him down because he wasn't really tired and I was trying to get him to go back to sleep. And I was laying on the couch and just whatever, just holding him, trying to get him to go back to bed. And my daughter was watching the Smurfs movie we just got DirecTV again, like earlier this month. And I don't know what channel it was, some Stars channel it looks like. But I had my son, and I took him back upstairs after he fell asleep, and I came back downstairs, and I looked up at the TV, and this was on the TV right here. Coming up next, Rudy, later, Like Mike. Like, what are the odds that Like Mike is going to be coming up, and it's really, really important to what I have been documenting about. Haven't seen this movie on in forever, and it just seems like an odd connection of movies. The Smurfs, then Rudy, and then Like Mike. It just seems like a weird combination of movies in general. And what are the odds that, I look up the TV for the 5 seconds that this is on there, and this is on there, right? Like Mike and Rudy. And I know that Rudy is important. Just the other night I was on Facebook, and somebody had this article about the actor James Best and how he died, right? James Best. Let's put it out here really quick. And I was like, well, that's weird. I know this guy died in 2015 because he's from the Dukes of Hazzard, and he died on the exact same day Duke won the college basketball championship in 2015, and he's from the Dukes of Hazzard. There's something to do with the number 88 with this guy, or he died age 88 in Hickory, North Carolina. It's apparently in the Charlotte area, right, where Zion Williamson's from, where Michael Jordan owns the basketball team, where the NBA All-Star Week was played this year. But I just thought it was strange that someone had posted an article about this guy dying, and, he died in 2015. And I wondered if there was going to be something coming up with the guy from the Goonies. I thought about it. The Sean Astin, who's the character in the movie The Goonies, is Mikey, right? And the other day when I was talking about that duck synchronicity, the girl had the duck tattoo on her leg. Her name was Mikey. And my girlfriend's brother, who I had to go pick up, that I documented about as well from work because he don't have a license like her whole family. But that's another thing whatever. I'm not going to go into that situation, but it was snowing like crazy and I had to go pick him up. And his name was Mikey. So I was like, Michael Jordan, Mikey. And anyway, the reason that it's important is because I know that after this guy died, a few years later in 2000, I think it was just before Prince died, we got the death of this lady, Patty Duke. Right, think about it, Duke. And this just so happens to be Sean Astin, the main guy in the Goonies, right? And also Rudy, that's his mother, right? Patty Duke. And his real name is Sean PATRICK Duke. That's what his birth name was. But this lady died, something connected to Duke. I even made a video all about it. Hopefully it's still working here. My computer's shut down. The battery died. But whatever. I made a video about Duke. A whole, like El Duce and whatnot is the Duke. And can you guys see this too? We'll see what happens when I post this video, but every time my computer has to be restarted or something, the stupid font screws up and it gets all blurry and I can't read anything. I can't even see my camera right now. It's like just a white, I don't know. I can't even see myself, but it's just stupid. I don't even understand it. I'm getting so tired of it. Like, I can't even hardly, I don't know. I just can barely even make out some of these things. It's driving me crazy. But Anyway, moral of the story. So we got Patty Duke, and think about how Rudy was on this. So Rudy was here. Let me find it here. You know, it said coming up Rudy and then like Mike. And his name is Sean PATRICK Duke. And what's funny about it is earlier this morning, I even made a Goonies reference. We were talking about, there was a couple things we were talking about at work today. We talked about books or whatever. I was talking about how in the book Jaws, like some books are, you know, I don't agree that all books are better like than a movie. Like the book Jaws, I'd just rather watch the movie and watch the shark eat somebody versus think about it. I don't know. But in that book, like the scientist kid who comes, he actually does Chief Brody's wife and whatnot. So it's like completely different from the movie, but uh we were just talking about books, and I even mentioned the short story Harrison Bergeron, and my boss was like, she never heard of it before, but it's a, kind of 1984-ish and whatnot, but the movie stars Sean Astin or whatever, and I didn't even think about it. And then later today, when I was at work, or right before I was leaving, this high school kid was in there, and he's wearing a Goonies shirt, and I was like, oh man, you know the Goonies? Because I grew up on the Goonies, right? It's like one of my favorite childhood movies, and it seems like a lot of kids don't know the Goonies anymore. And this kid kind of just said, yep, and then he left. He didn't really care that I thought it was cool he had a Goonies shirt on. And the Goonies are set in Astoria, Oregon, right? So just another weird connection to Oregon. The Teen Wolf stuff is also connected to the Oregon State Beavers, which is interesting. So something important to Oregon. We also, for whatever the reason, we're talking about exercise equipment, and I talked about how the Nordic Rider. Remember the Nordic Rider? We used to call that thing the sex machine or whatever. And my great grandma was the only person I ever know that had one of them. She's like 80 some years old, and she had a Nordic Rider, and we always thought it was funny when I was a little kid that my grandma had the sex machine. And this other lady I work with was like, oh, you think that's cool? I have one of them deals that you put around and then it shakes you or whatever. And I was like, it just like you do the truffle shuffle, like it shakes the fat off you or something. Or I don't know what I said. It was a lot funnier whatever I said at the time, but I just say things, whatever, you know. But I made a reference about the truffle shuffle, and you know, so I was talking about the Goonies, and I see this kid with the Goonies shirt, and then now I'm seeing this Rudy, and I'm going, huh, Mikey from the Goonies, right? And I previously documented about the Goonies a little bit. The mom on that show is Ann Ramsey, and she's from Omaha, and she died on August 11th, Hulk Hogan's birthday and whatnot. So interesting that. The Goonies also came out on 6/7, which is a date that, you know, that's Prince's birthday. So it came out on Prince's birthday in, I think, the year 1985. Also, I talk a lot about how the Big Bang Theory is always important to what I'm talking about. And I know on one of the recent episodes, Sean Astin was even in one of them episodes. He was one of the two, like, scientist guys that come and they try to, oh, what are they trying to get, a Nobel Peace Prize or whatever? And they either have to have Sheldon not on it or have Amy not on it. And so I know they were in one of them. He was in one of them newest episodes. So I know I documented about, I had synchronicity with the movie Encino Man in the summertime as well with earthquake stuff. So something important. There's a reason that Rudy was on before Like Mike, and I randomly look up at the TV, you know, and this is on. I wonder if it's something to do with Patrick too. Like, I was looking up something to do with my band as well, because the band that I'm in is called the Punch Clock Martyrs, and that equals 95, and my name equals 95, and my full name equals 95. And we recorded our album on the date of September 5th, 9/5, and the drummer and my singer and whatnot, he they have the same gematria in like all 4 ciphers or whatever, but his name's Patrick. And we got Sean PATRICK Astin, and Carmen Electra's real last name was Patrick, wasn't it? Carmen Electra. Yeah, Tara Lee Patrick. Thinking about Patty Duke. I don't know. Just making me wonder, that's all. Maybe there's something to do with Patrick. You know, also in regards to Rudy and Notre Dame and whatnot, Notre Dame had a good season this year and they lost in the playoff, right? And in that game, the eagle landed on the fan, and that was synced up to the death of Dwight Clark, the 49er player who died on June 4th of 2018. And that's synced up to Joe Montana and also Colin Kaepernick kneeling. And that was the same day the Eagles didn't go to the White House after winning the Super Bowl. I don't know. I just got more to look into. I just wanted to make a video because I'm not sure when I'll be able to make some more. So it's crazy how it's synced up to Dennis Rodman, though. Unbelievable. And then I have these weird synchronicity things that happen to me, you know, constantly. Just trying to look at some of these other things here. I don't remember what else I always documented. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. I just wanted to show that this Dennis Rodman thing, I can barely read anything now, so I don't know what, I'm going to have to try to fix it again, but really just wanted to show this connection to Dennis Rodman and how it's connected to basketball and, you know, my Halloween costume from years back that's connected to the blackface stuff. I'm telling you, all of these stories in the media, they're interrelated and they're important. And I don't know, Dennis Rodman being 57 is really interesting right now. 57 years old. It's a lot to do with the 57th day of the year. I think even Prince Charles's birthday is 5 months and 7 days before the day that Prince died on Queen Elizabeth's birthday. Right? December, January, February, March, April. Yeah, 5 months and 7 days before then. Well, the video is long enough. We'll leave it at that. I did also, I guess, I don't know what I'm talking about. I did have synchronicity with the number 811, and that's why I was looking at my band earlier, because I got this notification that you probably can't see on Facebook. How, like, I was reading a message about the number 811 in my email ads. Then all of a sudden Facebook sent me this notification. You could reach up to 811 people by boosting your post for $100 because we have a show coming up in uh, March. I think it was March 19th. I don't know. It just happened today. So, you know, 811 is a pretty interesting number to be telling me that I could be boosting that amount of people or whatever, right? 811. And it was right when I was reading something about the number 811. So that's why I brought up the Patrick thing, because I was looking at my band members or whatever, and his name was Patrick, and then, you know, I don't know, something to do with Carmen Electra is the Patrick, and Sean PATRICK Astin. Just keep following the pattern, you know. We'll see what happens, see where it takes us. So have a good one. Peace.